Well, Daredevil Born Again Season 1 has finally finished up, and I have a lot to say about it. If you like watching me talk about Marvel and DC, then you should definitely subscribe to the channel. But with that being said, let's not waste any more time. Daredevil Born Again is the long-awaited sequel to the original series. I still remember when the Netflix shows were announced as canon to the MCU. That made me very happy, but I remember hearing reports that they wanted to reboot Daredevil. They wanted to remove all of the things that we liked about the original, and thankfully that didn't happen. This show has had such a messy production, I'm honestly surprised it turned out as good as it did. Also, I will be going into spoilers in this review, so if you do not want to see that, then you should leave and then come back to the video later. Let me get into my things I was more negative or mixed on before I get into my many positives with this show. For starters, as much as I really liked Season 1, there are a few storylines that I wish we actually got to see concluded. In the original series, every storyline is always concluded, but here, there's definitely a lot of setup for the next season, and because of that, they kind of do the whole cliffhanger thing and waiting until they can actually follow up on these storylines, which did leave me a little bit disappointed. Another thing I wasn't a total fan of was the newer characters introduced. I understand why they are here, and I think they do have a place in the story, but I'm not gonna lie to you, a lot of them are just very unlikable. Getting into specifics, I wasn't a total fan of Matt's new girlfriend. I found her to be very annoying, and I thought her mentality on vigilantes was just stupid, if I'm being honest. Another thing that bothered me about the show was the lack of Punisher. I love the Punisher, but man, he needed more screen time. The stuff we do get of the Punisher is very good, but he's only really in 2 episodes. He could have really benefited from having more screen time in the series. But that about does it for my negatives. Let's get into the things I liked about the show now. For starters, this show is just as brutal, if not more so, than the Netflix show. The fight choreography and action are really good, and I think the higher budget really shows. Another thing I really loved was the cinematography because, man, it was beautiful in some scenes. To me, this is one of the only Disney Plus Marvel shows that feels movie quality with the way that it looks. Another thing I really enjoyed about the show is how it seamlessly references the grander MCU without it feeling forced. For example, whenever Kingpin is making his speech to the people of New York and he mentions Spider-Man, it's just stuff like that that I really enjoyed seeing. I also loved that they fixed the damage that was done to Kingpin's character and actually addressed all of the weird shit they were doing in Hawkeye and in Echo. And while yes, I don't love the fact that they killed off Foggy Nelson, the character development and the arc that Matt Murdock goes through because of what happens to Foggy was really awesome. I love how throughout the whole show we see Daredevil and Kingpin respectively trying to move away from who they used to be and make new lives for themselves, only to become their old selves again by the end of the show. I also really enjoyed how the show commentated on things that are going on in the real world and some political things, but it did it in a way that wasn't preachy or heavy-handed. I also really enjoyed what they did with Vanessa's character this time around. She's almost like this big mastermind of the whole show. She was the one that had Foggy assassinated. She was also running Kingpin's criminal underground while he was away. It was just really cool stuff. I also really enjoyed what they did with Kingpin and Vanessa's relationship in this series. Instead of having them resent each other or grow apart, they actually bring them closer, and you kind of see how they bring out the worst in each other, but in a good way, at least for them. And everybody around them is obviously going to be affected by both of them running this criminal empire. I thought it was really interesting stuff. I also really enjoyed the other villains, like Bullseye, having him ultimately be the one to assassinate Foggy so that Matt has this deep hatred for him, and I really enjoyed that one scene where Bullseye is basically asking for Matt's help, and he's like, no, fuck that, and just beats the hell out of him. Really good stuff. I also really liked Muse, although I will admit there is a sentiment that I agree with going around saying that Muse was ultimately a wasted villain, and I think what Marvel could have done to prevent that is have him in a few more episodes. I feel like they definitely could have gotten a little bit more mileage out of Muse. I feel like he needed more screen time. It's kind of the same problem I have with the Punisher in the show, they just needed more screen time. I actually think this is my favorite Disney Plus Marvel show, and I actually think it's also the best Disney Plus Marvel show. I mean, I know there's not a lot of competition, but I'm gonna say that right now. I don't think anything's topping Daredevil Born Again. I'm very interested to see where things are gonna go from here. Kingpin being mayor of New York now is going to have major repercussions going forward, with him outlawing vigilantes in New York, him trying to basically take over the city of New York and do all of his illegal activity. The possible setup of the Defenders, the upcoming Punisher special. There's a lot of exciting stuff with the show. I think it was a very worthy sequel to the original series, and I absolutely loved it. But overall, those are just my thoughts on Daredevil Born Again, and I'll see you in whatever my next project ends up being.